Butternut squash is the perfect thing for risotto with saffron. The saffron's really spicy, and the butternut squash is really sweet. When you're peeling butternut squash, you want to use a nice sharp peeler, not those sort of vegetable peelers that you find in the hardware store. You want something really good, and this one's really sharp. This is the quickest way I find to peel it. Just peel the entire outside, and then get a really good, big, sharp knife, major knife. Cut it in half. Keep your fingers out of the way, just like that. Cut off the end like that. So stand it up. Cut it in half. You can boil this, but instead, I'm going to actually roast it. I think it really brings out the sweetness, sort of caramelizes it a little bit. So this part's the easy part. Just a good dice. So that's the top of it. And then the bottom, I'm just going to cut it in half. Take out the seeds. You can actually roast those. They're like pumpkin seeds. But I prefer the butternut squash. And then again, just do big cubes. They don't have to be perfect squares, so don't obsess about it. Okay, that's one butternut squash. A little olive oil. Salt and pepper. Okay, toss it all together. Into the oven, 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes until it's really tender and sweet. Butternut squash is already in the oven. It smells so good. I need 6 cups of chicken stock. I really like to use homemade chicken stock, but if you don't have it, use a can. Okay, now some pancetta. Pancetta is Italian bacon, but frankly, any kind of good quality bacon would do too. So I'm just going to dice it up. It gives great flavor to risotto. So some butter, about 6 tablespoons into the pot, and the pancetta. I need 2 large shallots, or about a half a cup. Okay, now I need 1½ cups of arborio rice. It's the Italian rice, really special for risotto. I'm just gonna pour it right in. Okay, that's good. All the rice is coated with butter, so it's perfect. Now I'm gonna add a ½ cup of white wine. Now this is the key to good risotto, is you wanna add chicken stock by the ladleful, 2 ladles at a time. If you add it too fast, the risotto cooks on the outside and not on the inside. If you add it too slowly, it gets mushy. 2 ladles, and then I'm gonna add the key ingredient, which is saffron, which I love. It's spicy. It's the stamens of crocuses, which is why it's so expensive. About a teaspoon of saffron, give it a stir. And then probably take about 25 minutes. As the stock is absorbed into the rice, you just want to add another few ladles full. Needs just a little more stock. Butternut squash is perfect. You want to do this as soon as the risotto is completely cooked and the rice is done. Just stir it in. And the last thing I need is 1 cup of grated Parmesan, and this is the most delicious lunch, all in one pot. And the good news is, it's ready. A little risotto, Stephen?
That's my favorite meal.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, good. Butternut squash risotto.
Oh, that sounds great. I've never had this. A little Parmesan.
Thank you.
Let's start with a baked pasta recipe. It's crusty baked shells and cauliflower. So I've cooked 3/4 pound of shells. Oof. And I'm gonna add them to some sauteed cauliflower that I've already made, right in the bowl. I cooked the cauliflower in a little olive oil for about 5 to 7 minutes. I did it in 2 batches so it browns really well. So now I'm gonna add lots of really great flavors. And the first one's a little unusual for me, fresh sage. I need 3 tablespoons of minced fresh sage. just dump it right in. Next thing is 2 tablespoons of capers. I like capers for this because I like that kind of vinegary thing. It's already pretty interesting, isn't it? 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic, and I'm putting it in raw, but it's gonna cook when I bake the pasta. Next thing is half a teaspoon of lemon zest. Okay. And now lots of salt and pepper to make sure you bring out the flavors. And I like a little heat and things like this, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of red pepper flakes in. About 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Totally up to you. I'm just gonna mix that all together. Doesn't that look great? I like that the cauliflower is actually the same size as the pasta. Okay, next is some cheese. I have Italian fontina, 2 cups, that I'm just gonna put right in. So I've got a nice big baking dish. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put half the pasta in the dish. I actually love the shells for this because they kind of catch the cauliflower in the shells. You always wanna choose the pasta that's right for the dish that you're making. And I think the shells work really perfectly for this. The next thing I'm gonna do is put big dollops of ricotta right on top. I don't want to spread it out because when it bakes, the ricotta is going to sort of get creamy and you'll find little pockets of creamy ricotta. So just like this, big dollops of ricotta, just right on top. This is a great dish to make ahead because you can assemble the whole thing, refrigerate it, and then just throw it in the oven before dinner. You serve it with a little green salad to start and dinner's ready. And the last thing is I made a panko topping that's gonna make it really crusty. Let me tell you how I made it. I poured half a cup of panko, Japanese breadcrumbs, into a bowl. Added 6 tablespoons of pecorino that I'd ground in a food processor, along with 2 tablespoons of minced fresh parsley, tablespoon of olive oil, and mixed everything together. Now this is gonna go into the oven, 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes until it's hot and bubbly. That looks pretty good. Crusty baked shells and cauliflower, one of my favorite pastas ever. So good. So what I have in this pot is I've sauteed some onions and garlic and then broken up some sausage that I got at the store. This is turkey sausage. You can get hot, you can get sweet, but I actually like to combine the two, so it's half and half. It's about 1.5 pounds of sausage, and it's all cooked in a little bit of olive oil. Then I'm gonna add tomatoes, a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes in puree. If you use whole tomatoes, you can just put it in the food processor and crush them up yourself. And a 6-ounce can of tomato paste, the whole can. I'm gonna add lots of flavoring. Some fresh basil. Just pick off some leaves and chop it up coarsely. It's all gonna cook together anyway. I love basil, and it tastes so good with tomatoes and turkey sausage. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so right into the tomato and turkey sausage. And then I think some fresh parsley. You can use flat leaf parsley like this, or you can use curly parsley. I think this has a little more flavor, but really depends on the parsley. Right into the pot. I think we need salt and pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. A lot of this depends on how salty and peppery the sausage is, so you'll want to taste it. 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and then just stir it up. I'm just going to let this simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes over low heat until all the flavors blend together and the tomato and the basil and the turkey sausage all taste like one. Okay, now I'm going to get the cheeses ready. I need 15 ounces of ricotta cheese, which is usually 1 package. And then I'm going to put lots of flavors in it. First thing is goat cheese. I know it's unusual in a lasagna, but I think it really gives it great flavor. So this is a 4-ounce package. Maybe if you have a 4.5-ounce package or 5-ounce package, just be casual about it. It's just fine. Just crumble it right up into the ricotta. Sort of a little more pungent kind of flavor. It's good. 1 cup of grated Parmesan, Just mix that in. And then 1 egg. You know, when you're putting an egg into a mixture, I always put it into another glass bowl because you never know when you get a bad egg. So 1 egg, extra large egg, just mix that in. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of flavor with some chopped parsley. About 2 tablespoons. And of course, salt and pepper. You don't need too much because the Parmesan's pretty salty. 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Just spread it out along the bottom of the dish. Mush it around. Just want to do 1 layer of pasta right on top of the tomatoes. They don't have to be perfect, just cut them to fit. Just take about half the mozzarella and layer it on top. And then the next layer is this cheese, the ricotta, about half the cheese. Remember, it's the ricotta and goat cheese and Parmesan. More sausage. Okay, another layer of noodles. More mozzarella. The rest of the cheese. It's amazing how fast this builds up. With nothing more strenuous to do than grate some Parmesan over it. I put it in the oven at 400 degrees for 30 minutes. First, I'm gonna make the filling. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I love these Tuscan flavors, and I'm gonna put a little prosciutto in it to give it extra flavor. 1½ cups of onion. I'm gonna add 3/4 teaspoon of fennel seeds. It's gonna give it great flavor. And I'm gonna cook these together until the onion is tender. So I'm gonna add some garlic. 2 tablespoons, which is about 6 cloves. I always add at the end because you don't want to burn the garlic. That's a terrible flavor. Not good in turkey. So I'm just going to cook this for about 30 seconds or a minute, just until you can smell that garlic. I'm going to turn it off. Next, rosemary. It's got a lot of flavor. I need about 1 tablespoon chopped up. The next thing is 1 tablespoon of chopped sage, right in. So that's the herb and onion mixture. Next, the turkey. So what I asked the butcher to do is give me a whole boneless turkey breast with the skin still on. And then I asked him to butterfly it, which means to take it and fold it out. So we kind of cut this way and opened it up. And that way I get the herb and onion mixture throughout the whole turkey. So first I'm gonna season it. You need 4 teaspoons of salt. Don't skimp on the salt, it makes all the difference in the world. And 1½ teaspoons of pepper. Okay, the next ingredient is butter because it's gonna keep it really moist. I'm gonna take 4 tablespoons, and I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm gonna grate it. It's kind of the easiest way to distribute it. You wanna make sure you get all the butter in, and just distribute it like this. And then it gets rolled up inside the turkey, and keep it really moist and delicious. Okay, next is the onion mixture. I'll just spread the whole thing out, just like this. Okay, and now prosciutto. So I'm gonna take slices of prosciutto and just lay them right on top. So I'm just gonna start at one end, and when it's done, you'll see it's gonna look absolutely gorgeous. So I've got kitchen twine. The tighter you tie it, the more evenly it's gonna cook. So really give it a nice yank when you're tying it. About every 1½ inches. This will feed probably 8 to 10. Now, just to make it look really pretty, I'm gonna take sage leaves and put them underneath each of the ties. And then when it comes out of the oven, it looks just gorgeous. Okay, how does that look? I put it on a rack so it doesn't sit in the pan juices. It roasts evenly all around. Okay, right on top. Okay, it's pretty dry, but I'm gonna pat it dry with paper towels because it'll brown better if it's dry. Just pat it like that. Perfect. Brush it with olive oil. Make sure it gets nice and browned. On beautiful brown skin. Of course, lots of salt and pepper. And last, I'm gonna put 1 cup of wine. Don't pour it over the turkey, pour it right in the pan. And 1 cup of water in the bottom of the pan. There are 2 steps. First, I'll put it in a 350-degree oven and roast it for 1 hour and 45 minutes. The time will depend on the size of the turkey, so check it with an instant read meat thermometer. And when it registers 150 degrees, it's done. Then second, and equally important, I'm gonna cover it with aluminum foil and let it rest for 15 minutes so the juices get back into the turkey. Okay, you ready for a gorgeous turkey? Ta-da! I love the way it looks. All the flavoring gets all the way through it. You can see the fennel seeds. Okay, so I'm gonna put one big piece right here. And then put the rest right on the platter. This is so moist, it doesn't even need gravy. It's got pan juices. Right over the turkey. I would say once you've made a turkey this way, you're never going back to the old-fashioned way. Can't make good chicken noodle soup without good homemade chicken stock. Fortunately, I had 2 quarts in the freezer. So I'm gonna heat that up. I'm gonna put in 1 cup of chopped carrots right into the chicken stock. 1 cup of chopped celery. And 2 cups of noodles. I just use regular egg noodles. You can probably use any kind of pasta, but this chicken noodle soup has to be egg noodles. 2 cups, right in. Give it a big stir. This is gonna cook for about 10 minutes. And actually it's nice because the starch in the noodles is gonna get into the soup. It gives it a little body, which is great. And then I need to add chicken. And I just cook the chicken exactly the way I usually do. I take 2 chicken breasts, bone in, skin on, put them on a sheet pan, rub them with olive oil, sprinkle with lots of salt and pepper, and roast them at 350 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes. I mean, that's it. So I'm just gonna take the skin off, and then with a knife, just cut around the bone. So all I really want is the meat. You can really just peel it off with your hands if you want to. And because you're gonna dice it or shred it, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. You just need large pieces of chicken. It's amazing how the olive oil and the skin and the seasoning really gets into the chicken, and it keeps it absolutely delicious. So much more flavorful than boiling it, which I think takes all the flavor out of the chicken. And you can either shred it like this, or you can dice it, but this time I feel like dicing it. So just nice big bite-sized pieces. This looks so wonderful. It's so moist this way. And that's what I want from Miguel's chicken noodle soup. You can use dark meat for this, but it's sort of more traditional to use white meat. Big dice. Perfect. Okay, let's see how the soup is doing. It's just 10 minutes. It smells fantastic. Oh, how good does that look? Wow. Okay, chicken in, little parsley, and it's almost done. So if you've got chicken stock in the refrigerator or the freezer, this is really fast to do. 1/4 cup of parsley. It's always good to have a fresh herb in there. Just really brings out the flavor. Makes the whole thing taste really fresh. You can do dill if you like dill, whatever you have around. Nothing too strong though, not rosemary. Into the pot. This is a really good chicken noodle soup. So depending on how salty or peppery the stock is, I'm gonna add some more seasoning, but first I have to taste it. This is a tough job. Oh, it's so good. It's got so much chicken flavor. It needs a little more salt. The strange thing about chicken soup is it can taste like dirty dishwater, or it can taste like really delicious chicken soup, and salt is the only ingredient that's different. Okay, one more taste. That is so delicious. So the first thing I'm going to do is make cornbread stuffing for the Cornish hens. So I have a half stick of unsalted butter, it's 4 tablespoons, and 1 cup of chopped onion. It's about half of a large yellow onion. And I'm just going to cook it for a few minutes until the onions are translucent. And the next thing I need is 1 stalk of celery. I'm just going to dice it. I'm going to add the celery to the onions and butter so they cook just a little bit. Put it into the onion. Half a cup of chicken stock. cornbread stuffing's really a classic Thanksgiving thing. I like really simple ones, but you can always add sausage or chestnuts, whatever you like. The hard part here is scaling it down so that I can make enough for 2 Cornish hens. So I'm just guessing I need about 2.5 cups of cornbread crumbs. Okay, so the cornbread's all crumbled up. I'm going to add the celery and onions, chicken stock, right to the bowl. Okay, let's see. Maybe a little parsley would be good in this. And maybe a little salt and pepper to taste. Stir it up. Make sure the cornbread absorbs all the butter and onions and parsley, all the flavor. Okay, time to stuff these guys. So these are 2 Cornish hens, and I put them on a bed of onions so the onions cook with the Cornish hens. And fill each one. Cornish hens are really like little chickens, so they cook the same way, but in less time. These guys take about 35 to 40 minutes to cook. I'm going to tie their little legs together. The whole point of tying these things together is to make sure everything's very tight and it cooks evenly. And then just tuck the little wings underneath so that they stay tight. Okay, and then in order for them to brown, you want the outside to be very dry, so a little paper towel. And you can put a little bit of butter or olive oil on the outside. It really helps it brown nicely and keeps it moist. A little bit of salt and pepper. Okay, I'm going to roast these 425 for about 35 to 40 minutes until they're brown on the outside and juicy and tender inside. Oh, they smell wonderful, and a nice bed of onions. So I'm just going to test it to see if it's done. If you cut between the leg and the thigh and the juices run clear, it's done and it's perfect. So I'm just going to cover it with aluminum foil for about 15 minutes. It retains all the heat and it brings the juices and the flavors right back into the Cornish hens. Keeps it nice and warm for dinner. Oh, gorgeous little Cornish hens. And a little bit of onions. And you won't believe how delicious they are. My friend Patricia's coming after a really long trip from Paris, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to just greet her with like big steaming bowls of chili? But since she's being really good, I thought maybe instead of making beef chili, I'd make chicken chili. So I've got about 4 cups of onions and 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and they've cooked until you can really smell them, about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to add lots of good stuff. 2 tablespoons of chopped garlic. This is going to be really good. You want to cook the garlic for just a minute so it doesn't get really bitter. And 2 yellow peppers and 2 red peppers. This is a really quick way to cut peppers, just straight down. And then what's left over you can use for snacking. And I'm just going to do big chunks. I think chili should be big chunks of good stuff. So, peppers. Okay, now all the good spices. First thing, of course, is chili powder. So I've got a teaspoon of chili powder, teaspoon of cumin, which is a really essential ingredient in all chilies. And then these are the things that make it hot. Red pepper, just sort of a pinch of it, maybe a 1/4 teaspoon, and then cayenne pepper, which is really hot. So use it at your own risk. I like when things have a lot of flavor and a little bit of heat, but if you like it really hot, just add more. So 2 teaspoons of salt. This is great. And I'm going to cook that for about a minute while I get the tomatoes ready. I always make this with canned tomatoes. Life's too short to peel a tomato. So I'm just going to chop them up really quickly. I'm going to put in 2 28-ounce cans of tomatoes. Try not to get it all over the kitchen like I do. And into the sauce. Give it a stir. So most chili has cilantro in it, but I personally hate cilantro, so I'm going to put basil in instead. It gives it great flavor. Just take the leaves off. And just give it a really rough chop. So maybe about 1/4 cup should be good. Wonderful. So this is going to cook for about 30 minutes. So this is a chicken that I cooked on the bone with the skin on it, and it really keeps it moist. I just tested all different kinds of ways of doing this, and I found it's so much better roasting it than it is to boil it the way you normally do it for a chicken like this. Patricia's on a book tour for her new book, Provence, and I can't wait to see it. So just sort of tear off the bone with your hands. It's the best way to do it. So big chunks. I want it to be really delicious and chunky. Right into the pot. And just stir it around. This is going to cook for about 20 minutes so all the flavors get into the chicken. The chili, cumin, basil, tomatoes. So we got all kinds of toppings. Cheese,
Oh, I want some
tomatoes,
cheese. I love cheese.
a little sour cream.
Yeah.
Gotta have a little sour cream.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Some chips.
Did you just create this like in the shower one morning or something?
Well, you know, I always make beef chili, and I just thought,
Right.
wouldn't it be healthier if I made chicken chili? So I just put chicken in instead.
Brilliant.
It's been
Brilliant.
been one of Jeffrey's favorites. I'm going to zest 1 lemon. Whenever I do lemon juice, I always try and use this zest because it's got all the oils in it. It's so much more flavorful. Okay, next 3/4 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Right into the bowl. 1/2 cup of olive oil. That keeps the loins of pork really moist. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. I really want to mince this finely so it doesn't burn when I cook the loin of pork. Right into the marinade. 1 1/2 tablespoons of minced fresh rosemary. Okay, 1 1/2 tablespoons. Perfect. And then thyme. I think the rosemary and thyme together are really great. Very Mediterranean. So I need 1 tablespoon of minced fresh thyme leaves. So that's 1 tablespoon of thyme. I need 2 teaspoons of salt. And the last thing is 2 teaspoons of good mustard. I like Dijon mustard. It has a nice sharpness to it. So I'm just going to give it a little stir. This is really just like making a vinaigrette. It just has more lemon juice in it. So these are the pork loins. I've got 3. They're about 1 pound each. It's a really inexpensive cut of meat. I think it's fantastic. Each one serves 2 people. After it's cooked, I'm just going to slice it like that. So to marinate it, I'm going to put it right in this plastic bag. That's 1. This way, all you have to do is pour the marinade in over, and then the marinade gets all around the meat, and it really gets into it. Okay, just pour it in carefully. Oh, got it. Seal the bag. Well, it's not elegant, but it really works. So I'm going to marinate it for about 3 hours. It's even better overnight. So for the pork loins, a few tablespoons of olive oil in a pan. I'm going to do this actually the way restaurants cook meat, which is to sear it in a pan and then bake it in the oven. So just lift it right out of the marinade, put it right into the pan. You don't want to put the marinade into the pan. You want them as dry as you can so that they really sear. I'm just going to sear it for about 2 minutes on each side so it just browns. Then I'm going to put it in the oven and cook it until it's just barely pink inside. Okay, these look gorgeous and brown right now, so I'm just going to give them a turn. Ah, beautiful. Okay, 2 minutes on that side, and then into the oven in a hot oven, and they'll be perfect. It's been resting for 10 minutes, and it should be nice and juicy and tender. How gorgeous does that look? Wow. So I'm just going to put them on the board. I'll show you how I cut them. So I'm just going to do slices like that. Very simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. That's perfectly done. Just nice and pink inside. I love to make chicken pot pies on the weekend because I can assemble them and then bake them off whenever I feel like having them. I think we might have it Saturday night, but it depends on how the weekend goes. So the best way to cook chicken for chicken pot pie is to roast it. I've tried it many different ways, but I find if you do it with the bone in and with the skin on, it stays really moist and it's the most flavorful. So I have 6 chicken breasts. These are huge chicken breasts. A really good butcher. Just rub it with good olive oil. Just rub the top of the skin. Keeps it moist. Sprinkle with salt. And some pepper. This should make probably 4 pot pies, 2 for Tiara's party and 2 for Jeffrey and me. So into the oven, 375 for about 35 or 40 minutes. Chicken will be really succulent and delicious. Next, I'm gonna make the filling. So for the sauce, what I've done is I've cooked 2 onions and 1.5 sticks of butter, and just for about 10 minutes until they're translucent. And then I'm going to thicken it with 3/4 of a cup of flour. Just stir it in and cook it for a few minutes, just to get rid of that raw flour taste. This is really like making a white sauce. It actually is making a white sauce. And after this cooks for a minute or so, I'm going to add 5 cups of chicken stock. I actually have a little trick for chicken stock. Even if it's really flavorful, you want the entire dish to be flavorful. So I'm going to add 2 bouillon cubes. And then slowly pour this into the white sauce or the roux. And what that's going to do is really just thicken it. Perfect. I need 2 teaspoons of salt. And 1 teaspoon of pepper. Remember, this has to be really well seasoned because it's going to flavor all the chicken and vegetables. And then because I want it to have a little bit of richness, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of heavy cream just to give it a little extra flavor. And to this sauce, I'm going to start by adding lots of great vegetables. And the secret is, some of them can be frozen vegetables. 1.5 cups of frozen onions. Just think how hard it would be to peel all these onions. Ten ounces of frozen peas. Not those tiny little peas. You want good, big-sized peas. And I've blanched some carrots. 2 cups. And some fresh parsley. And the last thing is chicken. So 5 cups of cubed chicken that have been roasted on the bone with the skin on to keep them really nice and succulent. Put it in, just mix it all up. Oh, this looks great. So that's the chicken pot pie filling done. And all I have to do is roll out the crusts. Okay, last part of chicken pot pie is putting the pastry on. I actually made pastry for something else and just froze this pastry so it'd be ready whenever I needed it. And I defrosted it in the refrigerator. You don't want to defrost it at room temperature because you need it to stay really cold. So I'm just going to leave the dough there for a minute. So I'm doing individual pot pies, so I'm going to put them in oven-proof ramekins. This filling looks gorgeous. Big chunks of juicy chicken, carrots, whole onions. Now they need a crust top. So I'm just going to roll out the dough. I'll cut it in 4ths. Now, if you don't even have time to do the dough, what you can do is get some frozen puff pastry and defrost it in the refrigerator and use that instead. It's light, it's wonderful, and it's really easy. So I'm just going to roll each one of these out into a roll, maybe about an 8-inch round. Flour everything, including yourself. Let me move this over a little bit. When you're rolling out dough to make a round, you want to keep turning it. Roll it from the center out to the edge. This is nice dough. You just want to keep it moving, make sure it never sticks to the board. You can roll it on wood, but if you have stone, it's even better. Right on the counter. Okay, now the secret to the dough sticking to the dish is just do a little bit of an egg wash that you're going to use on the top anyway, around the edge. It makes it a little wet. So just put the dough on top. This is obviously a little too big. And you just want to trim the dough so that it's about half an inch bigger than the bowl. Doesn't have to be perfect. Nice country, homey, rough edge is nice. Just like that. Okay, and then just stick it to the edge of the bowl. And it'll stick because of the egg wash that you put on it. Now just egg wash the top. So the dough puffs up and it's nicely browned. It's gonna be wonderful. So when these bake, the steam and the chicken pot pie filling will puff up the dough and it's gonna turn out gorgeous. And then I like to season the top with flaked sea salt so you see it. It's just wonderful. Flaked sea salt. Want to have lots of flavor. Cracked pepper. Okay, that one's done. Just 3 more. I don't even bother crimping it, just press it right down. And I'm going to bake them for an hour at 375, and they're going to be puffed and succulent chicken pot pies. I think we're all going to have a good time. Wow, those actually look like chicken pot pies. Sometimes I even surprise myself. So the first thing I'm going to make is beef bourguignon, which is really just beef stew with red wine. And I'm going to serve it with a salad with a creamy mustard vinaigrette and maybe a Kir Royale, which is champagne with a little bit of Kir in it. Sounds good. For the beef bourguignon, what I have here is about 1/2 pound of bacon. I cooked it in a tablespoon of oil. I'm going to take it out, which leaves some of the fat in the pan, and then I'm going to cook the beef and the vegetables and the wine, a little cognac. It's going to be really good together. You know, I think Americans think of French food as this sort of fancy pinkies up kind of thing, and I love the really traditional recipes that are real country food. So the next thing I'm going to do is take 2½ pounds of chuck, which is a fairly inexpensive cut of meat, not like filet of beef, and I've cut it in cubes, and I'm just going to dry it a little bit. If the cubes are dry, they'll brown better in the pan. Just salt, pepper, and then I'm going to brown them in the pan. Just do it in a single layer so they brown really evenly. Oh, this looks great. So the meat's all nice and brown and it really brings out the flavor. So I'm going to take this and take it out of the pan onto the plate with the bacon and just put it all together. You want to save all the juices, and it's all going to go back in the pan later. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is put in the rest of the meat. This is a really traditional French recipe, and I just think it's a much easier way to make it. It takes much less time, but it's wonderful for entertaining because you've got the meat and the vegetables and everything all together in the pot, and if you make it a day or two in advance, all the flavors just get better and better. You just have to heat it up before dinner. Okay, that's done. I'm just going to take this out. It smells so good already. Now I'm just going to finish prepping the vegetables. I have 1 pound of carrots. And now what I'm going to do is throw them into the pot with all the juices from the beef and the bacon. And cook them for about 10 or 15 minutes until they're just tender. And I'm going to add 2 large yellow onions and a tablespoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of freshly ground pepper. It seems like a lot, but it's a big stew. I'm just going to saute this for about 15 minutes until the vegetables are just tender and the onions are nicely browned. This is so great. So the next thing I'm going to do for the beef bourguignon is put in chopped garlic, about 2 cloves. Very often recipes call for onions and garlic to go in together, but I think the garlic really burns very quickly. So I tend to do the onions for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then the garlic for only the last minute. And then you get all the flavor of the garlic and no burning. So 2 cloves of garlic, right in with the carrots and the onions. I'm just going to stir that a minute while I go get the cognac. So I need a half a cup of cognac. I'm going to pour it into the pot. And now comes the fun part. I'm going to flame it. Stand back. Whew. What the flame does is it burns off all the alcohol, but leaves that gorgeous flavor of cognac. Okay, and then I'm going to put all the meat and the bacon and all those gorgeous juices right back in. And then a whole bottle of red wine, good red wine. You want to make sure it's wine that you drink. And actually, you can even serve the same wine with dinner. I did say a whole bottle. And then I'm going to add a little bit of beef broth. Just want enough so that it covers, almost covers the meat, but not quite. And don't spend days making beef broth. A can of it is just fine. Tablespoon of tomato paste. I actually get it in a tube, so it's really easy to keep stored in the refrigerator. Okay. Keep it nice and fresh with the top on. And the last thing here is fresh herbs, fresh thyme. Smelling awfully good. I think Miguel's going to be pleased. So now it's simmering, which is perfect. Now this is the other novel thing about this recipe. Instead of cooking it on top of the stove, as most beef bourguignon is, and I'm endlessly fiddling, turning up the heat, turning down the heat, I discovered that if I cooked it at 250 degrees in the oven for an hour and 15 minutes, instead of like 2.5 hours as they usually are, it comes out perfectly done. So into the oven, an hour and 15 minutes at 250 degrees, and we're gonna have beef bourguignon. Beef bourguignon should be a really thick and delicious stew, and the traditional French one has lots of mushrooms in it. So I'll show you what I do with the mushrooms. You really don't wanna wash them, because there's something about them, they just absorb all that water and they just get sort of watery. So what I'm gonna do is just brush them off with a towel or paper towel, anything like that. And then I'm going to slice them up and saute them in a little butter. And if they're really big, I'll take the stems out, but it's not usually necessary. So it's about a pound of mushrooms. Doesn't have to be exact. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is just slice them really thickly. You don't want little thin slices. You want gorgeous thick slices. Traditionally, beef bourguignon is served with noodles or potatoes. But one day, my assistant Barbara and I decided to test that, and we found it was okay. But the best thing is if you take a grilled piece of bread, rub it with garlic, and then pour the beef bourguignon over it. It's sort of like gravy and bread. Who wouldn't like that? It was really good. So that's what I'm going to do for Miguel. Okay, so big chunk of butter, high heat. Just let that melt. Big wooden spoon. So when you're sauteing something, you always want to let the butter get really hot and then throw it in. It'll really sear the flavor. Okay, nice little sizzle going. And in go the mushrooms. So I'm just going to saute those for about 10 minutes until they're really meaty and delicious and tender. I'm on the beef bourguignon home stretch. So the mushrooms are done. Woo. Oh, that smells so good. So I only have a few more things to do with the beef bourguignon, and the first is I'm going to thicken it a little bit with a little butter and flour. 2 tablespoons of butter. 3 tablespoons of flour. This is a really easy way to thicken a sauce. Just mash the flour and the butter together. You want to have room temperature butter so they go together. It just takes a second, but it's really worth doing right. Okay. Okay, that looks like it's done. Just until it's all mashed together. I'm just gonna put it in and cook it just a bit. It's just gonna, I love the way this smells. I can smell the cognac and the wine and carrots and onions. Who wouldn't want that for dinner? Got every last bit. So beef bourguignon has small whole onions, and I'm gonna show you a trick. Instead of peeling all those onions, I use frozen small whole onions, and they taste just great. When it comes to big onions, I don't mind peeling and chopping them, but when they're really small, I like the frozen ones. And you just dump them in. Mix it up. And the last thing is the mushrooms that have been sauteed. Okay, right in. I'm going to let this simmer away for about 15 minutes until all those flavors are together, the beef and the bacon, carrots, onions, little garlic, all that wine and cognac and mushrooms. Oh, this just smells so gorgeous. Time for dinner. So I'm just going to take a cut clove of garlic, and instead of chopping it, I'm just going to rub it right on this bread. So you get all of the oils and the essence of garlic without the bite of it. And each plate's going to have one big chunk of country bread and lots of beef bourguignon. Okay. A little bit of chopped parsley on the top is always nice. So just run your knife along the stems and you cut off the leaves. How's that? Here, oh, the cheese, and got everything.
Great.
A little wine.
Pour the wine.
Oh, I love some wine. I just want to smell this.
Even from here, I smell it.
Does it smell great? It's actually the same wine that I used in the beef bourguignon, so it'll go together.
Perfect. It's a perfect entrée into France.
To your bon voyage.
Santé.